Hello music fans, I'm here to count down my top 10 favorite progressive albums of April 2023. There will be some progressive metal, there will be some progressive rock, and there will be some that maybe don't quite fit that genre but are almost there, like a melodic death metal album and a black metal album that both are kind of more experimental than typical albums in their genres. Let's start it right off with number 10, which is Matt Dorsey and his album Let Go. This is progressive, but it's kind of more pop rock as well. It's the debut solo album by this member of the American progressive rock band Sound of Contact. Some of the songs on this album feature the critically acclaimed drummer Marco Minimum, and the songs are very catchy, very accessible. They're proggy, but not too proggy. I can imagine these songs being played on rock radio, and people who aren't into progressive music could still enjoy this. This is for fans of the poppy but still progressive songs by Genesis and Marillion, but also with some more folky singer-songwriter vibe injected into it. Probably some Beatles influence on here too. Number 9 is Isles and their album Beyond Drama. This is progressive rock. It's the 5th album from this band from Chile. My favorite track from this album at the moment is Megalomania and Disobedience. There's also a cool, catchy, soft song called Time, A Conversation with My Therapist. The vocals on this Isles album sound kind of emo sometimes. The guitars sound kind of like math rock. Sometimes the guitars and vocals remind me of The Fall of Troy. Sometimes they remind me more of TTNG, This Town Needs Guns. Every now and then a riff kind of sounds like a metal riff, but all the vocals are clean singing, there's no screams, and the music isn't quite heavy enough to cross over from progressive rock to progressive metal in my opinion, so I kind of lump them into the progressive rock genre. Number 8 is Ignea with Dreams of Lands Unseen. This is a female-fronted melodic death metal band that has a lot of symphonic, oriental, and progressive influences. This is the 3rd album by this Ukrainian band. I heard the single Dunes and added it to my list to check out. Really powerful female vocals here with both clean and harsh vocals. If you're a fan of bands like Ginger, Wintersea, Arch Enemy, and other bands like that with powerful female, clean, and harsh vocals, you'll like this. My favorite tracks are the 3 that have music videos, so they did a good job picking the singles here. It's Dunes, Incurable Disease, and Nomad's Luck. Nomad's Luck is probably my favorite. Most of the lyrics on this album are in English, but some songs are in Ukrainian. Number 6, I think that's what we're at. No, we're at number 7. Number 7 is Lunar Chamber, and this is an EP called Shambhallic Vibrations. This is progressive technical death metal with black metal and doom metal influences. It's the debut EP by this American band, and I heard the single they released early called Spirit, Body, and the Seeing Self. That caught my interest. I think if you're a fan of bands like Artificial Brain, Between the Buried and Me, Opeth, The Faceless, Wilderun, you'll like this. It sounds to me like a mix of those bands, but it definitely has its own unique identity as well. The closing track, 3 crystalline blessed light flows from Violet Mountains into Lunar Chambers, which is a crazy long title but kind of fun. It's almost 13 minutes long, and it ends with a part that really gives me Between the Buried and Me vibes, and this closing track here is my favorite track on the album. I believe they use fretless bass on a lot of the songs, and some of that always reminds me of bands like Cynic and Intronaut as well, who they are probably influenced by. But the vocals are mostly brutal on this, kind of like the harsh vocals of The Faceless, though there are some clean vocals as well. Now I'm at number 6, which is Alase and their album A Matter of Time. This is progressive metal. It's the second album by this Finnish band. And for this one, the first song I heard was the single Fate's Intervention, and that made me really want to check this out. The whole album is solid. There are great clean vocals, as well as the odd harsh vocal on here. Most of the lyrics are in English, but the last song is in Finnish. I recommend this for fans of Opeth. Number 5 is M-Opus and their album At the Mercy of Manannán. This is symphonic progressive rock. It's the third album by this Irish band, and as with all their albums, this hypothetically comes from a year in rock history with the sound and production that implies. So this one is supposed to come from 1972 in the fictional lore of this band, and it sounds a bit like it comes from that time, but I do feel like I can hear some more modern sounds that wouldn't have existed then. But if you're a fan of bands like Yes and King Crimson and want to hear a modern band making music in the style of their classic 70s material, check this out. I listened to this on Bandcamp because I didn't see it on Spotify yet. Number 4 is Dodheimsgard with their album Black Medium Current. This band's also known as DHG, and this is avant-garde black metal. It's the 6th album by this Norwegian band. If you're a fan of other great Norwegian black metal bands that have a little bit of progressive or experimental nature, like Enslaved or Isan, who both also fall in the black metal category but do more adventurous stuff, while Enslaved and Isan have more progressive rock influence in their music, DHG has more avant-garde influences. They also seem to have a lot of keyboards and piano in their music and classical influences, as well as ambience and clean singing, in addition to the more expected and typical black metal style with shrieking, fast tremolo picking, guitar riffs, fast drumming, and evil dark atmospheres. I also think fans of Xanthocroid will like this because it has a similarly cinematic and grand feel to it like Xanthocroid has. And this is probably my second favorite black metal album of the year so far, right behind Enslaved. Though in both cases, it's hard to just describe the albums as black metal because they're much more innovative. Big thanks to Rhyme Signature's channel for putting this on my radar. And number 3 is Teramaze with their album Dalla Volta. This is progressive metal / rock. It's the 11th album by this Australian band. I'm not sure if it counts as a studio album or a compilation because it's kind of half and half. Half of this release are new songs. The other half contains piano versions and demo versions of songs they previously released. It's kind of like 2 EPs smashed together to make a full length. I really enjoy both halves, but prefer the first half because what I enjoy most is to hear new original songs. Their musicianship is off the charts. If you're a fan of bands like Dream Theater, you'll like this. The vocals, though, are really stellar and stand out and have much better power and delivery than recent Dream Theater releases. It looks like they have 2 members who do vocals. Nathan Peachy is the lead vocalist, and Dean Wells plays guitar and sings as well. The singers do amazing harmonies with each other. They both have a very similar sounding voice. I didn't even realize it was 2 people until I watched a music video and saw both of them singing and checked out the album credits. They also have just really catchy pop choruses, really melodic writing, and it's pretty much all clean singing on this album except the opening track, Navigate in Solitude, has a guest screamer named Eric Wright. That's one of my favorite tracks on the album, and another favorite is Chaos in the Way. My only negative critique about this album is the lyrical content is a bit too overtly Christian for my liking, but if you're okay with that and can overlook that, you'll probably really love this album. And my number 2 album of April is Karmic Juggernaut and Phantasmagloria. Yeah, it's a funny song title. I'm not sure what that means, or album title, and not really sure what the band name means either, but they're a very quirky band, very psychedelic progressive rock band. This is Karmic Juggernaut's 2nd album. They're from the US. and it's Prog, so you know I had to check it out. I was very pleasantly surprised with how great and quirky this album is. If you're a fan of the Mars Volta, King Crimson, Thank You Scientist, and Flummox, I think you'll like this. It kind of sounds like a mix of those bands. Very cool percussion on the song Psycho. Their sound is a little bit like Mars Volta vocals over King Crimson instrumentals with a bunch of horns as well. They've got a trumpet and a trombone player. It's a very unique album. I like how they put the credits on the album right in the last track. If you listen to it on shuffle, you might not like that if that track comes up randomly, but it actually kind of works well when you listen to the album from start to finish, as you should. They have a very comedic vibe with their lyrics and spoken word interludes as well. Their craziness reminds me of stuff from Frank Zappa or the wackier works of Devin Townsend as well. And as amazing as this album is, I also went back and checked out their debut full-length album because of this, and I think it might just be slightly better than their second album. Needless to say, Karmic Juggernaut is a new band to add to my list of favorites, and I'll check out anything they release in the future. And now we're at my number 1 album of April, and it's Black Orchid Empire with Tempus Veritas. This is progressive metal. It's djenty with some pop though and some alternative influences. It's the 4th album by this band from the UK. It sounds really djenty with the guitars, low like chugging, polyrhythmic, syncopated stuff, but also is really catchy and accessible. I recommend this for fans of Tesseract. There are no harsh vocals on here though, so this would be a good album for people who like the instrumental aspects of progressive metal and djent but don't like harsh vocals. My favorite track was Last Ronin. The intro really sounds like Tool to me, but when the vocals come in, they sound more like Tesseract. It's a really great song. I also think fans of the band Soen would like this. Another standout track on here is Scarlet Haze, which has an amazingly catchy chorus. Glory to the King is another great song with a solid chorus. When I listen to this album, every song I listen to, I just think, wow, that's a really great song. And that's it for my top 10 albums of April. Hope you enjoyed this, and stay tuned for next time. Peace out.